Hello, everybody, and welcome to our series, Soul Presence in a Time Between Worlds. This is our third segment in the series, so I wanted to take just a moment to touch base on the first two segments so that we can begin all on the same page. So our very first one was called Soul Essence in a Time Between Worlds, and we had the affirmation, I am the soul of the time between worlds, keeper of the dream of the earth. And so what we explored in that segment is really how to be this soul presence in this very challenging time where we have old systems that are falling away and new systems that have not come right online yet. So in our second segment, which was entitled Soul Sanctuary in a Time Between Worlds, we had the affirmation, I am a living sanctuary of truth, goodness, and beauty in the world. And we took a look at really what is it that we mean when we say sanctuary. And it's not really a way to come together to nurture our comfort zones, but it's a way of coming together that we can do some deep work and a willingness to really be undone by the divine so that we can see things differently, so that we can ask different questions, so that we can move forward in a new way, more appropriate to the complexity of the times that we live in. And I really love it that, we are really being invited by love to do this deep divine work. And that makes all the difference. And so that is really being willing to surrender into this deeper calling of love in every moment. And I love this quote by Bayo Akomolafe that says, thinking outside of the box is exactly how boxes think. And so it really points to the fact that very often the solutions that we come up with are really within the same paradigm and the same problem thinking that got us into the trouble in the first place. And what we're really being invited into is an entirely different way of looking at it. And so we have to be really willing to not know what love means. And those of us that have been on the spiritual path for a while, this can be a bit of a challenge because we have worked so long to understand what this is and how to be and have created great spiritual discipline around it. But in every moment we're asked to let go of what that is and to really live in this place of mystery and to begin to have a different relationship with mystery, to make it a friend. And so I like this quote by Stephen Jenkinson that says, our willingness to wonder is where mystery goes for shelter from the steady attack it endures from our demand for information, clarity, and certainty, and from our rarely questioned right to know what we demand to know. Wonder serves mystery with grace and a humble approach. And Malidoma Somé, the Dagara writer and teacher, has written that in his language there is a word, Yilbangura, which is quickly and very inaccurately, he says, translated in English as mystery. But he says that this word more accurately should be translated as that which your knowledge cannot eat. And so mystery really has an important role and a place in this. And Stephen Jenkinson goes on to say that mystery is a place where we can finger the ragged edges of what we know and begin to make peace with what we do not know. It is a nature of mystery, after all, that the more we know about it, the more mysterious it becomes. So you can check out the videos from the first segments in our series in Truth Talks playlist, and also check out the corresponding meditations that are always released every Monday. So today's focus is soul with-ness in a time between worlds. And so this word with-ness comes forth from the word witness. So we're going to take a look first at what truly is witness. Now, many of us are familiar with it in its more superficial way, which is, seeing what happened and being able to report what happens, like, at a crime scene, for example. How many witnesses were there that can report the facts? But witnessing actually is more than seeing something. And it's more than seeing people. It's willing to be a stand for the existence and purpose of someone or something. And it is to hold the value of all that came before that makes it possible, and to hold the value of the presence in the world for today and for tomorrow. But David White says, the ultimate touchstone of friendship is not improvement, neither of the other nor of the self. The ultimate touchstone is witness, the privilege of having been seen by someone, and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them on a journey impossible to accomplish alone. There is a West African word called sayubona. It means I see you. And it is a way of this deep seeing into another person that totally acknowledges their purpose, their reason for being here. And it also acknowledges their ancestors and all that has come before that's made it possible for them to stand before you. And it also acknowledges the calling forth from the descendants and all who will follow, and how they are influencing this person that you see before you. So with witnessing, there is a shift in perspective from the third to the first person, where we are now speaking as, seeing as, hearing as. It is intersubjective in nature. There is one subject. There is only an I here. The particularity of each individual is honored, but we are no longer speaking from a separate self. And so this really brings to mind this idea of a collective agency. So there is really this shift away from this idea of the superhero achiever self model that most of us have grown up to value. This idea that everything we think, say, and do is completely up to us. We have to kind of pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps. So shift away from that to realizing how deeply we are influenced by everything and everybody around us. And science is now doing some amazing research on the gut and the microbiome, the relationship of bacteria in the gut. And is now showing us that how the relationship of bacteria can affect how we think. It affects our belief structures. It affects how we feel, and ultimately the decisions that we make. So Bayo Akomolafe says, what would change if we took seriously the consideration that the world is alive, and we derive our being from a never static, ever-changing field of entanglements? So Jeff Carrera tells a really beautiful story that is about a beaver. And it's really taking a look at this assumption, that we are individual achievers. He calls it the individual achiever paradigm. And that we're really these separate individuals that are roaming around the earth manifesting dreams and desires. So the beaver story comes from a documentary called The North American Beaver Pond, which is about the ecosystem of the beaver. And of course, as you could imagine, the beaver is the star of this particular documentary. And the beaver is famed for chopping wood and building dams. And in the story, it also brings out, however, that there has been a scientific research that shows that beavers actually are agitated by the sound of running water. And so something about the sound of running water makes them immediately go and start wanting to build dams. And so in this way of looking at it, we shift from the hero is no longer the beaver. Actually, the primary agent or the hero becomes the running water. But there is also a possibility of another hero or another agent here. And you can look at the entire ecosystem that is benefiting from the beavers building their dams. Look at the frogs, the deer, the flowers, the trees that are all thriving. And you can make a shift and really see that maybe it is the ecosystem that is calling itself into existence. And it's using the beaver's irritation with water to do so. So from this ecological view now, there is an intelligence that really resides in the entire system that is calling everything forth. Now, this is a very different way of looking at it, and it's not really in alignment with this individual achiever view. But it's an invitation for us to think of our own actions, our own motivations, and to imagine what larger intelligence might be acting in and through us. And so what does this collective agency feel like? It can feel like a deep sense of belonging, and one of really where there is mutual inclusion with all of the characters. I am yours and you are mine. And there's a sense of a mutual responsibility there. And this responsibility is not so much in a moral sense, but more in a belonging sense by the very activity of the way that we draw each other forward. So I'm going to end now by just talking about this experiment that we did with our in-person community at Unity Las Vegas. And what we did is we meditatively discerned what our vision or dream is for the world and distilled it all the way down to a single word. And we put that all together in what's called a word cloud. And so the way word clouds work is it works with a variety of different words that's put into the program. And if there are more than one word that comes up more than once, it appears much brighter or larger on the screen than the others. So you can have a sense in your community of, how many people are focusing on a particular word or words more than others. And so it's really symbolic of our collective at work and our dream of the world. And it really brings to what if you've been to translate this energetically, what happens when more than one of us have the same dream? So I invite you, as you are looking at this, to do the same thing, to add your energy to this word cloud and join with one of the words that's already there, or to add your own word. And to look at it now as more than just a two-dimensional representation. Look at it as something that is alive. And seeing each word as a collective prayer, representing an energy vibration that is going out to the earth from us. So just take a moment now, just meditatively, to see each of these words as energy and taking them into yourself and then sending them out into the world as love. And to look at the whole word cloud really as just a small symbol of what collective agency looks like when we are able to really hold the dream of the earth in our hearts and to send it out into the world. And to look at each word and see the contribution of our ancestors and sense all the voices that have come before and those that are yet to incarnate, pulling this forward, this dream that we hold in our heart as we truly are the keepers of the dream of the earth.